Hello everyone. Welcome back. Today we will explore together the best strategies to improve our lives and reach our full potential. In today's video, we're going to discover how to make difficult habits irresistible. Have you ever wondered why some habits are so hard to maintain while others seem almost automatic? The key lies in how our brain associates rewards and cues in our environment. Today, we're going to dive deeper into the science behind habits, exploring concepts like the dopamine spike, supernormal stimuli, and the temptation bundling technique. We'll teach you how to reprogram your brain so that even the most challenging habits become something you look forward to. From transforming your mindset to applying practical hacks you can implement immediately, this video will provide you with the tools necessary to make lasting, positive changes in your life. So if you're ready to learn how to transform your habits and live a more fulfilling and productive life, stay with us. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Let's start this journey towards positive change. So how can you make a habit irresistible? In 1971, as the Vietnam War was hitting into its 16th year, Congressman Robert Steele from Connecticut and Morgan Murphy from Illinois made a discovery that stunned the American public. While visiting the troops, they had learned that over 15% of U.S. soldiers stationed there were heroin addicts. Follow-up research revealed that 35% of service members in Vietnam had tried heroin and as many as 20% were addicted. The problem was even worse than they had initially thought. The discovery led to the flurry of activity in Washington, including the creation of a special Office of Drug Abuse Prevention under President Nixon to promote prevention and rehabilitation and to track addicted service members when they returned home. Lee Robbins was one of the researchers in charge. In a finding that completely upended the accepted beliefs about addiction, Robbins found that when soldiers who had been heroin users returned home, only 5% of them became re-addicted within a year, and just 12% relapsed within 3 years. In other words, approximately 9 out of 10 soldiers who used heroin in Vietnam eliminated their addiction nearly overnight. This finding contradicted the prevailing view at the time, which considered heroin addiction to be a permanent and irreversible condition. Instead, Robbins revealed that addiction could spontaneously dissolve if there was a radical change in environment. In Vietnam, soldiers spent all day surrounded by cues triggering heroin use. It was easy to access. They were engulfed by the constant stress of war. They built friendships with fellow soldiers who were also heroin users, and they were also thousands of miles from home. Once a soldier returned to the U.S., though, he found himself in an environment devoid of those triggers. When the context changes, so did the habits. Compare this situation to that of a typical drug user. Someone becomes addicted at home or with friends, goes to a clinic to get clean, which is devoid of all the environmental stimulus that prompt their habit, then returns to their old neighborhood with all the previous cues that caused the addiction in the first place. It's no wonder that usually you see numbers that are the exact opposite of those in the Vietnam study. Typically 90% of heroin users become re-addicted once they return home from rehab. The Vietnam studies re-encountered to many of our cultural beliefs about bad habits because it challenged the conventional association of unhealthy behavior as a moral weakness. It's easier to build new habit in a new environment because you are not fighting against old cues. So, to sum up, the inversion of the first law of behavior change is to make it invisible. Once a habit is formed, it's unlikely to be forgotten. People with high self-control tend to spend less time in tempting situations. It's easier to avoid temptation than resist it. One of the most practical ways to eliminate a bad habit is to reduce exposure to the cue that causes it. Self-control is a short-term strategy, not a long-term one. The second law when it comes to establishing new habits is to make them attractive. So how to make a habit irresistible? How cravings work and habits are formed, / the dopamine spike. The brain of each animal is preloaded with certain rules for behavior, and when it comes across as an exaggerated version of that rule, it lights up like a Christmas tree. Scientists refer to these exaggerated clues as supernormal stimulus. A supernormal stimulus is a heightened version of reality, and it elicits a stronger response than usual. Humans are also prone to fall for exaggerated versions of reality. Junk food, for example, drives our reward system into a frenzy. After spending hundreds of thousands of years hunting and foraging for food in the wild, the human brain has evolved to place a high value on salt, sugar, and fat. Such foods are often calorie-dense. They were quite rare when our ancient ancestors were roaming the savannah. When you don't know when your next meal is going to be, eating as much as possible is an excellent strategy for survival. Today, however, we live in a calorie-rich environment. Food is abundant, but your brain continues to crave it like it is scarce. Placing a high value on salt, sugar, and fat is no longer advantageous on our health, but the craving persists because the brain reward center have not changed for approximately the last 50,000 years. The modern food industry relies on stretching our Paleolithic instincts beyond their evolutionary purpose. A primary goal of food science is to create products that are more attractive to consumers. Nearly every food in a bag, box, or jar has been enhanced in some way, if only with additional flavoring. Companies spend millions of dollars to discover the most satisfying flavor of crunch in a potato chip, or the perfect amount of fizz in a soda. Entire departments are dedicated to optimizing how a product feels in your mouth, a quality known as oral sensation. French fries, for example, are put in combination golden brown and crunchy on the outside, light and smooth on the inside. Other processed foods enhance dynamic contrast, which refers to items with a combination of sensations, like crunchy and creamy. Imagine the gooiness of melted cheese on top of a crispy pizza crust, or the crunch of an Oreo cookie, combined with its smooth center. With natural unprocessed foods, you tend to experience the same sensations over and over. How is that 17th bite of kale taste? After a few minutes, your brain loses interest and you begin to feel full. But foods that are high in dynamic contrast keep the experience novel and interesting, encouraging you to eat more. Ultimately, such strategies enable food scientists to find the bliss point for each product, the precise combination of salt, sugar, and fat that excites your brain and keeps you coming back for more. The result, of course, is that you overeat, because hyperpalatable foods are more attractive to the human brain. As Stefan Guyanin, a neuroscientist who specializes in eating behavior and obesity, says, "We've gotten too good at pushing our own buttons." The modern food industry and the overeating habits it has spawned is just one example of the second law of behavior change, which is make it attractive. The more attractive an opportunity is, the more likely it is to become a habit forming. Look around. Society is filled with highly engineered versions of reality that are much more attractive than the world our ancestors evolved in. Stores feature mannequins with exaggerated hips and breasts to sell clothes. Social media delivers more likes and praise in a few minutes than we could ever get in the office or at home. Online porn splices together stimulating scenes in a rate that would be impossible to replicate in real life. Advertisements are created with a combination of ideal lighting, professional make-up, and photoshopped edits. Even the model doesn't look like the person in the final image. These are the supernormal stimulus of our modern world. The normal features and proportions that were naturally attractive to us before are no longer sufficient to get our attention or admiration. But these stimulus exaggerate features that are normal to us, and as a result, our instincts go wild, driving us into excessive shopping habits, social media habits, porn habits, eating habits, and all types of compulsive, destructive behavior. If history serves as guide, the opportunities of the future will be more attractive than those of today. The trend is for rewards to become more concentrated and stimulus to become more enticing. Junk food is a more concentrated form of calories than natural foods. Hard liquor is a more concentrated form of alcohol than beer. Video games are a more concentrated form of play than board games. Compared to nature, these pleasure-packed experiences are hard to resist. We have the brains of our ancestors, but temptations they never had to face. If you want to increase the odds that a behavior will occur, then you need to trick your brain into seeing it as attractive. Throughout our discussion, our goal here will be to learn how to make our habit irresistible. While it is not possible to transform every habit into a supernormal stimulus, we can make any habit more enticing. To do this, we must start by understanding what a craving is and how it works. We begin by examining a biological signature that all habits share: the dopamine spike. So what is the dopamine-driven feedback loop? Scientists can track the precise moment a craving occurs by measuring a neurotransmitter called dopamine. The importance of it became apparent in 1954 when the neuroscientists James Olds and Peter Milner ran an experiment that revealed the neurological processes behind cravings and desire. Roman Byrne, an electrical engineering student in Dublin, Ireland, enjoyed watching Netflix, but he also knew he should exercise more often than he did. Putting his engineering skills to use, Byrne hacked his stationary bike and connected it to his laptop and television. Then he wrote a computer program that would allow Netflix to run only if he was cycling at a certain speed. If he slowed down for too long, whatever show he was watching would pause until he started pedaling again. He was, in the words of one fan, eliminating obesity, one Netflix binge at a time. He was also employing temptation bundling to make his exercise habit more attractive. Temptation bundling works by bundling it with an action you want to do, with an action you need to do. In Byrne's case, he bundled watching Netflix, the thing he wanted to do, with riding his stationary bike, the thing he needed to do. Businesses are masters at temptation bundling. For instance, when the American Broadcasting Company, more commonly known as ABC, launched its Thursday night television lineup for the 2014 to the 2015 season, they promoted temptation bundling on a massive scale. Every Thursday, the company would air tree shows, Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, and How to Get Away with Murder. They branded it as TGIT on ABC. TGIT stands for Thank God It's Thursday. In addition to promoting the shows, ABC encouraged viewers to make popcorn, drink red wine, and enjoy the evening. Andrew Kubitz, head of scheduling for ABC, described the idea behind the campaign. We see Thursday night as a viewership opportunity, with either couples or women by themselves who want to sit down and escape and have fun and drink their red wine and have some popcorn. The brilliance of this strategy is that ABC was associating the thing they needed viewers to do, watch the shows, with activities their viewers already wanted to do: relax, drink wine, and eat in front of the TV. Over time, people began to connect watching ABC with feeling relaxed and entertained. If you drink red wine and eat popcorn in front of the TV at 8 p.m. every Thursday, then eventually every 8 p.m. on Thursday means relaxation and entertainment. The reward gets associated with the cue, and the habit of turning of the television becomes more attractive. You are more likely to find a behavior attractive if you get to do one of your favorite things at the same time. Perhaps you want to hear about the latest celebrity gossip, but you need to get in shape. Using temptation bundling, you can only read the tabloids and watch reality shows at the gym. Maybe you want to get a pedicure, but you need to clean out your email inbox. Solution: only get a pedicure while processing overdue work emails. Temptation bundling is one way to apply a psychology theory known as Premack Principle, named after the work of the Professor David Premack. The principle states that more probable behaviors will reinforce less probable behaviors. In other words, even if you don't really want to process overdue work emails, you become conditioned to do it if it means you get to do something you really want to do along the way. You can even combine temptation bundling with the habit stacking strategy to create a set of rules that guide your behavior. For example, if you want to check Facebook, but you need to exercise more, you can force yourself to do 10 burpees every time you check your social media. Or if you know you have to call 3 potential clients, you can tell to yourself that in order to go get lunch, you'll have to first make the calls. Doing the thing you have to do means you get to do the thing you want to do. So, as I have already said previously, we live in an environment that is saturated with stimulus of all type and that increases our desires to take action. Temptation bundling is one way to create a heightened version of any habit by connecting with something you already want. Engineering a truly irresistible habit is a hard task, but this simple strategy can be employed to make nearly any habit more attractive than it would be otherwise. To sum up, to change a behavior, you have to make it obvious and attractive. The more obvious and attractive an opportunity is, the more likely it is to become habit-forming. Habits are dopamine-driven feedback loop. When dopamine rises, so does our motivation to act. It is the anticipation of the reward, not the fulfillment of it, that gets us to take action. The greater the anticipation, the greater the dopamine spike. Temptation bundling is one way to make your habits more attractive. The strategy is to pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do. Now, let's explore where cravings come from and how they are generated. I once found myself in a group of 7 people in which, as I later found out, I was the only person who had not at some point in his life smoked at least a pack of cigarettes a day. I asked of these people how he got started. "Friends," he said. "It always starts with your friends. One friend smokes, then you try it." What was truly fascinating to me was that half of the people in the room had managed to quit smoking. One of them had been smoking for years, and he swore he managed to quit them thanks to a book called Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking. "It frees you from the mental burden of smoking," he said. "It tells you, stop lying to yourself. You know you don't actually want to smoke. You know you don't really enjoy this. It helps you feel like you are not the victim anymore. You start to realize that you don't actually need to smoke." I had never tried a cigarette, but I took a look at the book afterward out of curiosity. The author employs an interesting strategy to help smokers eliminate their cravings. He systematically eliminates each cue associated with smoking and gives it a new meaning. He says something like, "You think you are quitting something, but you are not quitting anything, because cigarettes do nothing for you. You think smoking is something you need to do in order to be social, but it's not. You can be social without smoking at all. You think smoking is about relieving stress, but it's not. Smoking does not relieve your nerves, it destroys them. Over and over he repeats these phrases and others like them. Get it clear into your mind. He says, you are losing nothing and you are making marvelous positive gains not only in health, energy, and money, but also in confidence, self-respect, freedom, and length and quality of your future life. By the time you get to the end of the book, smoking seemed like the most ridiculous thing to do. And if you no longer expect smoking to bring you any benefits, you have no reason to smoke. It's an inversion of the law of change we talked about earlier. Make the habit unattractive. Now, I know this idea might sound overly simplistic. Just change your mind and you can quit smoking. But stick with me for a minute. So how are cravings being formed? Every behavior has a surface layer craving and a deeper, underlying motive. I often have a craving that goes something like this. I want to eat tacos. If you were to ask me why I want to eat tacos, my answer wouldn't be that I need food to survive. But the truth is, somewhere deep down, I am motivated to eat tacos because I have to eat to survive. The underlying motive is to obtain food and water even if my specific craving is for a taco. Some of our underlying motives include conserve energy, obtain food and water, find love and reproduce, connect and bond with others, win social acceptance and approval, reduce uncertainty, achieve status and prestige. A craving is just a specific manifestation of a deeper, underlying motive. Your brain did not evolve with a desire to smoke cigarettes, or to check social media or play video games. On a deeper level, you simply want to reduce uncertainty and relieve anxiety, to win social acceptance and approval, or to achieve status. Look at any product that is habit-forming, and you will see it does not lay on innovation, but rather latches onto the underlying motives of human nature. Find love and reproducing equals Tinder. Connect and bond equals browsing equals Facebook. When social acceptance and approval equals posting on Instagram. Reduce uncertainty equals searching on Google. Achieve status and prestige equals playing video games. Your habits are modern-day solutions to ancient desires, new versions of old vices. The underlying motives behind human behavior remain the same. The specific habits we perform differ based on the period of history. Here is the powerful part. There are many different ways to address the same underlying motive. One person might learn to reduce stress by smoking a cigarette. Another person learns to ease their anxiety by going for a run. Your current habits are not necessarily the best way to solve the problems you face. They are just the methods you learn to use. Once you associate a solution with a problem you need to solve, you keep coming back to it. Habits are all about associations. These associations determine whether we predict a habit to be worthy of repeating or not. Your brain is continually absorbing and analyzing information, noticing cues in the environment. Every time you perceive a cue, your brain runs a simulation and makes a prediction about what to do in the next moment. For example, cue. You notice that the stove is hot. Prediction. If I touch it, I would get burned. So I should avoid touching it. Cue. You see that the traffic light turned green. Prediction. If I step on the gas, I'll make it safely through the intersection and get closer to my destination. So I should step on the gas. You see a cue and categorize it based on past experience and determine the appropriate response. This all happens in an instant, but it plays a crucial role in your habits because every aspect is preceded by a prediction. Life feels reactive, but it is actually predictive. All day long, you are making your best guess on how to act, given what you have just seen and what has worked for you in the past. You are endlessly predicting what would happen to you in the next moment. Our behavior is heavily dependent on these predictions. To put it in another way, our behavior is heavily dependent on how we interpret the events that happen to us, not necessarily the objective reality of the events themselves. Two people can look at the same cigarette, and one feels the urge to smoke while the other is repulsed by the smell. The same cue can spark a good habit or a bad habit, depending on your prediction. The cause of your habits is actually the prediction that precedes them. These predictions lead to feelings, which is how we typically describe a craving, a feeling, a desire, an urge. Feelings and emotions transform the cues we perceive and the predictions we make into a signal that we can apply. They help explain what we are currently sensing. For instance, you are not thinking about your body temperature, and you won't notice if a temperature drops 1 degree. But if it drops 10 degrees, your brain will detect it and send you a signal to take measures and put on another layer of clothing. Feeling cold was the signal that prompted you to act. You have been sensing the cues the entire time, but it is only when you predict that you would be better off in a different state that you take action. A craving is a sense that something is missing. It is the desire to change your internal state. When a temperature falls, there is a gap between what your body is currently sensing and what it wants to be sensing. This gap between your current state and your desired state provides a reason to act. Desire is the difference between where you are now and where you want to be in the future. Even the tiniest action is tinged with the motivation to feel differently that you do at the moment. When you binge eat, or light up a cigarette, or browse social media, what you really want is a potato chip, a cigarette, or a bunch of likes. What you really want is to feel different. Our feelings and emotions are necessary because they transmit us whether we should hold steady in our current state or to make a change. They help us decide the best course of action. Neurologists have discovered that when emotions and feelings are impaired, we actually lose the ability to make decisions. We have no signal of what to pursue and what to avoid. It is emotion that allows you to mark things as good, bad, or indifferent. So the specific cravings and habits you perform are just an attempt to address your fundamental underlying motives. Whenever a habit successfully addresses a motive, you develop a craving to do it again. In time, you learn to predict that checking social media will help you feel loved, or that watching YouTube will allow you to forget your fears. Habits are attractive when we associate them with positive feelings, and we can use this insight to our advantage rather than to our detriment. So how to reprogram your brain to enjoy hard habits? You can make hard habits more attractive if you learn to associate them with a positive experience. Sometimes all you need is a slight mindset shift. For instance, we talk about everything we have to do in a given day. You have to wake up early for work. You have to make another sales call for your business. You have to cook dinner for your family. Now imagine changing just one word. You get to wake up early or work. You get to make another sales call for your business. You get to cook dinner for your family. By simply changing one word, you shift the way you view each event. You transition from seeing these behaviors as burdens and turn them into opportunities. The key point is that both versions of reality are true. You have to do those things, and you also get to do them. We can find evidence for whatever mindset we choose. I once heard a story about a man who uses a wheelchair. When asked if it was difficult being confined, he responded, "I am not confined to my wheelchair. I am liberated by it. If it wasn't for my wheelchair, I would be bedbound and never able to leave my house. This shift in perspective completely shifted how he lived each day. Reframing your habits and circumstances in order to highlight their benefits rather than their drawbacks is a fast and lightweight way to reprogram your mind and make a habit seem more attractive. For example, many people see exercising like this draining task that leaves you with no energy and wears you down. You can just as easily view it as a way to develop skills and build you up. Instead of telling yourself, I need to go run in the morning, say, it's time to build endurance and get fast. Saving money is often associated with deprivation and sacrifice. However, you can associate it with freedom rather than limitation if you realize one simple truth: living below your current means increases your future means. The money you save this month increases your purchasing power the next month. These little shifts in mindset aren't magic, but they can help change the feeling you associate with a particular habit or a situation. Once a habit has been built, if you recall the cue of it, it can prompt a craving to perform it, even if that cue has little to do with the habit itself. The key to finding and fixing the causes of your bad habits is to reframe the associations you have about them. It's not easy, but if you can reprogram your predictions, you can transform a bad habit into an attractive one. To sum up, in order to leave a habit behind, we have to make it unattractive. Every behavior has a surface level, craving a deeper underlying motive. Your habits are modern-day solutions to ancient desires. The cause of your habits is actually the prediction that precedes them. The prediction leads to a feeling. Highlight the benefits of avoiding your bad habit to make it seem unattractive. Habits are attractive when we associate them with positive feelings and unattractive when we associate them with positive feelings. Create a morning ritual of doing something you enjoy immediately before a difficult habit. I hope you apply these hacks into your life as soon as possible. We will talk about habit implementation in other videos and how to make lasting changes easier in other videos. So if this topic is of any interest for you, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you, my friends. Keep striving for the light and surpassing yourself every day.
you.